Welcome to episode 13 of the BJJ Foxcast. I'm your host, Alex Martinez. And today, my special guest is the person that changed my life, literally, Lance Trippett. Lance is a black belt under Vicenta Junior in the, I guess, a De La Riva family. And he is also one of the partners of Academy Kings that we use at Ares East Mesa BJJ. And I'm just going to have Lance talk about that in a minute. Lance, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. So listen, I always kick it off with, kind of like a little background story, but I want to kind of jump right into the meat of it and kind of work our way backwards. You're a black belt. You're a three-stripe black belt, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay. And where did that all start? Did you start training super early? Were you in a kids program? How did that all evolve?
So my dad and my grandfather were both like semi-pro boxers. So I started boxing a little bit as a kid growing up, got into a little bit of jiu-jitsu, and then I moved to Colorado. I did karate and all the kind of kid stuff, as I was kind of coming up. But when I got 18, 19, I moved to Colorado. And at that point was when I kind of really started my, I would say, like legit martial art kind of thing. I was doing Kempo, and I had a buddy, Donnie Martinez, that was a judo black belt, and we trained MMA. And that's when I kind of got into the ground side of martial arts.
Okay. And how did you, in your relationship with Vicenta Junior start?
So we had, I was a purple belt, I believe, at the time. And we were under a different affiliation. We, like I guess any entrepreneur, thought we could do it a little better. So we opened up a school. We were still under the affiliation, but we started to have pretty decent success, I guess. Better than maybe say the guy that we were under. And he kind of got to the point where he was like, "Oh, I don't want you guys to have a school anymore." We're like, "Well, we already have a school. Like, close it." And so he kind of had a track record of, like, once you got to kind of brown or black belt, like a lot of people left. Like, he basically was the biggest guy in Maryland for a long time. And then the entire, his entire kind of hierarchy left, or he kicked out or whatever happened.
Yeah.
But, long story short, we were looking for a new affiliation. We compete a lot, stuff like that. And we were actually at a local tournament. And my business partner, Kyle, his dad struck up a conversation with VJ's wife at this tournament. VJ was a referee at the time and had a school in Delaware, and started a conversation. Long story short, invited VJ to come teach a class. He came, whooped everybody's butt. Saw he was like amazing jiu-jitsu. And, at that point, this was 2009, I think 2009, 2010, VJ had already been a black belt for 10 years or whatever. So, just really amazing jiu-jitsu, De La Riva lineage. And, we just all fell in love with his jiu-jitsu, and he was an amazing guy. And then we ended up asking him to be kind of part of our team, or not our team, but our business. And he ended up moving to Maryland, and kind of that's where it all started.
Wow. So where was he living before he moved to Maryland?
He was in Delaware.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah, we did talk about that a little bit. He and I talked about that. And so the move for him wasn't that big a deal going to Maryland, right?
No, he was coming. So when he was living in Delaware, he had a school. He was in a Taekwondo school, and the owner was more kind of concerned about growing his Taekwondo program than VJ's jiu-jitsu program. And VJ didn't know how to market or anything. He was pretty much new to the States at that point. And so, it got to the point where at first we were going up there, once a week, and he would come down to us once a month. And then it was like, he'd come down 2 times a month. And then we're like, "Dude, why don't you just come down every week?"
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where we're like, "Hey, we want you 2 days a week. Why don't you just move down here?" And like I said, his school, where it was at the Taekwondo school, just wasn't growing. And he decided he wanted to just move down here and be with us.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So were you guys, so tell me a little bit about the location you're in right now, because it's very impressive. And tell me about, I believe is it Conquest BJJ, or is it Conquest MMA, or what is it?
It's BJJ Conquest is kind of the LLC, and then we kind of go by Conquest Martial Arts and Fitness.
Gotcha. So tell me a little bit about that, because I visited your school one time, and you have the main mat space downstairs, and then you have an upstairs that also has a mat space for your beginner program, but you have like a yoga room and everything like that. How did that evolve? I mean, because it looks like you own a portion of that building, but not the entire building.
Yep. So we kind of started just jujitsu. And basically just adult jiu-jitsu kind of at first. We moved to a second location. When we moved to that second location, we had about 30 students at the time. I guess we had introduced kids classes also. So we had adult and kids jiu-jitsu classes, but that was it. At that point, we moved to a new location. And when we moved there, we wanted to bring in striking. So I had a little bit of MMA experience. I had a couple fights back in the day, and I was helping train some people and stuff like that. So we brought in another partner, and that's still our existing partner, Nate Greb. And Nate was more of a, he has Tang Sudo background. He graduated Naval Academy. He was on the karate team at the Naval Academy. So good stand-up, kind of transitioned more into kickboxing and Muay Thai. So when we moved over, we said, hey, do you want to invest in the new business? And you can teach all the Muay Thai classes. We'll teach the jiu-jitsu stuff. And he ended up jumping on board, and we kind of grew that to, I guess, about 100, 150 people within about a year and a half. And then at that point, we moved to the current location. When we moved here, we just had the downstairs area with kind of a mezzanine. And then we just, kept kind of adding new stuff. We'd add a fitness program. We had a different room. So we added a yoga program. And then, we expanded over to the other side, and that allowed us to kind of start running simultaneous classes where you might have kids going, adults going, fundamental class, beginner class, or fundamental class, advanced class. All of those kind of options were available to us once we kind of built out the space, but it took us a little bit of time to acquire the space that we have, and then kind of build it out and build the programs around that.
Yeah. So it sounds like you have a pretty diverse, availability, I guess, of different programs. How do you come up with all the coaching staff? Like, I mean, you guys are, in deep with other businesses as well. So where do your coaches come from?
Mostly up through our organization. All of our fitness coaches were started as clients, and then, moved into coaching role. Same with all of our jiu-jitsu instructors. At one point we actually had an MMA coach and a jiu-jitsu guy. Josh Ford, he was a really high level jiu-jitsu guy from Colorado. He moved to Maryland. He was at Elevation or Grudge back in the day. Kat Zanganu's jiu-jitsu coach and stuff like that. So really, really high level guy. We brought him in to kind of help with the MMA team for a while and some stuff. And then he kind of transitioned out and opened his own fitness facility. He was more kind of into the fitness side, but most of them we kind of have homegrown into our program.
Okay. So I want to dig a little bit into the Academy Kings side of it, because it sounds like that's your team, right? You, Nate, Kai, and Vicenta Junior. And it's a awesome team. I mean, I try to be on every single call that we're on, and we'll get into those different calls in a minute. But I want to talk about the evolution of Academy Kings. And for those of you that don't know what Academy Kings is, it's basically it's almost like a franchise without franchising, right? You're teaching people basically how to run a business in a structured way. So you taught us how to market and get into the tech side, how to sell once they get through the door, how to deliver the product, and not only deliver the product, you basically handed us the product to deliver, and we execute on that product. And the last piece is retention, right? How to retain our people. On the retention side, I got to say, we have the advantage over other places because we have Deborah Academia, who is amazing. She does all the thank you cards for joining the gym, all the birthday cards for, birthdays, all of the, sorry you got injured cards, all of that stuff. So how did that evolve? How did that start?
Well, I guess it's a couple things. One is like I'm a serial entrepreneur kind of idea. Like I'm always kind of like, oh, we need to change something. We need to fix something. We need to work on this other thing. Hey, I got this idea. Like just today, I randomly came across this website and I called the lady and, you know, she's got like 6 different websites. She's not really monetizing them. She's got all this kind of stuff going on. And I was like, hey, do you want to sell them? Like, I want to buy them and fix them and change them, whatever. So it's like, I just have that kind of, shiny object syndrome or whatever.
Yeah.
Where I'm always kind of looking at that next thing. And we had, like you said, you know, at Conquest, we had built a great kind of program and, you know, like Samir, who you're under with Ares, Samir, Kashinya, Kyle Teja, like all of those guys have been here a bunch. And they kind of saw us go from like 30 students to 100 to 200 to 500.
Yeah.
And they just saw that progression. And every time like, dude, how do you guys do this? Like, this is really impressive. Like you guys are constantly getting, you know, a bunch of people and just through the conversations with other school owners, a lot of times, like I could just tell like people have really no idea what they're doing. And it was like, I love jujitsu. I love martial arts and I want to train. So I'm going to open up my own school, but I have no idea on the business side of things.
Yep.
So, you know, I do a lot of kind of self-knowledge and self-improvement. Nate, Kai, all of us kind of do VJ. And so, you know, we constantly are learning new things and figuring out things and testing things. So it just got to the point where like, man, this works really well. And at that point we kind of reached out or Chris Bauer, who's one of our black belts under the Vicente team. You know, he was kind of in a situation where he was working his butt off every day, but wasn't getting a lot of success. I think he was maybe at, you know, 10 to 15,000 a month, was doing all the private lessons and physical, or private, you know, like physical private training, whatever they call that. But basically like, not really having any success, just like killing himself, but not getting the results. So he's like, dude, what are you guys doing? Like, I see you guys, you know, have a great program. You're selling all the time. And so we basically kind of worked him into the program, showed him how to do it. We kind of set everything up with him and kind of helped him. And, you know, in like 2 months, he had gone from making, say, you know, 15,000 a month to like 30 or 40,000 a month.
Wow.
And he was like, oh my God, dude, this is amazing. Like, I can't believe it works as well. And so, you know, he was just all about it. Like, he was like, this is amazing. And basically allowed him to stop doing all the personal training, all of the private lesson stuff. And if you know Chris Bauer or not, but he's, you know, typically number 1, number 2 in IBJJF in the rankings for his division, and travels all over the world competing. And that's what he loves. He loves just traveling and competing. And what the Academy Kings kind of program and that design allowed him to do was free up a lot of his time, make a lot more money. And then now he can kind of, you know, enjoy the fruits of the labor, I guess.
Yeah. And that's something that I noticed, like, you know, you were our second call when Chris and I partnered up and we were going to start the Academy. Obviously we wanted to be under the Ares affiliation under Samir. So he was our first call. But you were our second call because I was exposed to you guys, I hate to say by chance, but we were looking at, you know, Chris and I were looking at buying into an academy, maybe starting our own. We weren't quite sure what we were going to do, but it was really cool how the Ares community kind of, you know, brought us in, and they kind of allowed us to be part of, almost like, ownership conferences that they were having at the time. Yeah. And they brought you in as a speaker. And I always, Chris and I always kick ourselves in the butt because we had direct access to you like 2 times and never asked a single question. We just kind of nodded our head like, this is awesome. Right. But then once, we decided to take the plunge and jump in, we actually started with you almost 6 months before we even had brick and mortar, like before we even laid a mat down. So, you know, we never knew any better. We never tried, you know, the figure it out method.
Yeah.
We've seen many people do it. And in my opinion, I hate to call it a mistake because there are some like you, you're serial entrepreneurs, and you came up with a great system that works for, you know, I would say any kind of business, right? Any kind of business that is wanting to expand. It's a really good system. It just happens to be targeted towards martial arts because I'm assuming that's where your passion is, right?
Yep.
But you know, when we opened up and we were looking at, you know, it's funny because there's so much to learn. And like, I can only imagine what a new business owner, especially in the martial arts arena, is like, what do I do? Like, I know I can deliver a good product, right? But who am I going to deliver it to if I can't get them through the door? Right. So tell me about it's hard to be good at everything. So tell me about how your team breaks it up into, you know, who came up with the idea of like the sales process, the tech process, because you also have Jonathan Stroud as part of your team and Brandy, and they help a lot with the tech. How did that evolve? Like, where did you find them, and how did they play into the whole business partnership?
Yeah, so we a lot of the sales trainings and things like that, we kind of formatted from different trainings that we kind of took as we were kind of coming through our personal development and business development. John originally came from actually a lady in my neighborhood. She had a digital marketing company, and she said, "Oh, we were looking for somebody that could help us with running some of the Facebook ads." I was doing it, but I suck at tech and I don't really enjoy doing any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Hey, we want to find someone to do this for us." And she said, "Hey, I got this guy, John. He, worked for NASA doing some stuff." And we're like, cool. So John and I started working together as basically not employee, but like a contractor for Conquest. And as we were building it all out, we were documenting it kind of and figuring out what we were doing. And it was a constant kind of, I was on the call with him every day. Like, okay, these ads aren't working. Why aren't they working? Let's figure out the new ad copy. Let's change the pictures. Let's change the videos. And it was just a progression that we basically went through here at Conquest that allowed us to, we had a great product. We had a great kind of following. I'll be honest, back in the day, it was much easier to get students than it is now. Like, there was not a lot of competition. Now I have 7 jiu-jitsu schools within 5 miles of me.
Wow.
So tons of competition now. Everybody's running Facebook ads. Everybody's doing all the marketing stuff. So it's like, you just got to kind of keep a step ahead of everybody else, because most of the people are doing the same thing. So it's like, you got to try to change it up and be different. And what I like to say, decommoditize ourselves. But that whole kind of process just came from back and forth. And, in like you said, in business in general, you're always going to have kind of these compartments or these departments that you need to have systems for and have processes for. And once you fix one, so like, we didn't know how to run ads, so we weren't getting any leads, so we weren't getting any sales.
Yep.
Once we got a whole bunch of leads, then it was like, oh man, none of these leads show up. How do we get them to show up? We had to figure out lead nurture.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, we're getting 15, 20 appointments a week, but we can't sell anybody. We got to go back and figure out how to do the sales part.
Yep.
And then it's just a constant evolution of something breaks. We've got to figure it out and fix it. All of our energy, all of our resources go to fix it. And then something else will break and test or whatever. And it's just that constant kind of evolution of business in general. And most people don't do that.
Yeah.
Most people I can't get any leads. I don't know what to do. I'm going to sit here and wait for someone to knock on the door and show up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then take that a step farther is I'm going to wait for somebody to walk through the door and I'm going to sell them. Yeah, good luck, pal. Right? If you don't know the process, but hey, I'm gonna pause real quick because my tech guru came through the door. Do you want to throw some headphones on and kind of monitor a little bit? Yeah, if you don't mind. They're right under the bench on this side. You can walk right past. We'll edit this part out.
What's up, man?
Yeah.
Oh, he probably can't hear me.
He can't hear you yet. Right by your knees. Yeah, there should be a set of headphones there. Can you hear me okay? Mm-hmm. All right, perfect. I just want him to monitor because I know I'm going to screw something up. I'm pretty sure I hit record on everything, so we'll find out. But okay, so let's talk about staying a step ahead. So when I joined Academy Kings, it was right in the middle of the pandemic, okay? So we were all getting shut down, and the meetings, I don't want to say they were kind of like hectic, but everybody was like trying to figure out what was going on. Yeah. And the one thing I found very, very helpful with Academy Kings is you guys were a step ahead on all the federal aid that was available. I mean, the meetings were so good because we were having these Zoom meetings with all these owners from across the country, and everybody's like, oh, trying to figure out like how you're going to get paid, how you're going to pay your employees, can I keep my doors open? And you were breaking down like all the federal aid that was available, what we needed to do to apply for that federal aid, and how to, what to do with the money, make sure the accounting was correct. And you always give the disclaimer, you're not an accountant, you're not a lawyer, but you kind of led us down a path where, okay, we could go talk to a lawyer or an accountant intelligently. And that was part one. Part two is, okay, so how do we keep our businesses open? How do we keep running without people being able to walk through the door? Okay. So then you guys had all of these online programs that you were building, and it's almost like you anticipated that pandemic. I mean, it really is, because you kept us a step ahead of shutting our doors down before they even opened. Right. So,
Yeah.
and where, talk about how your team approaches that. How does your team approach, like, oh crap, there's going to be a turn in the market, we need to stay a step ahead? Is it something that you guys come together collectively, or is there somebody specifically assigned to that? How does that work?
No, we do try to keep like our finger on the pulse. During that, obviously it was crazy. Like no one ever expected all of that to kind of play out the way it did.
Yeah.
But one thing that I didn't, that I was really adamant about was like, we don't shut down, we don't close until like they make us close. I saw a lot of the kind of big name jiu-jitsu guys and stuff like that. They're all like, oh, it's the right thing to do, we're going to shut down, it's only going to be 30 days or 2 months or whatever. And then 6 months later, these are the same guys opening back up because I need money. So
yeah.
It's like, is it the right thing to do or is it not? And so my thing was like, hey, we're going to keep going until we can't. And then once we can't, we're going to have a plan to pivot. And that gave us a little bit of time. Once we kind of saw mid-February that things were starting to get bad, we started kind of planning, and hey, if this does happen, if that does happen, what are we going to do? And those are just meetings that we have internally with Nate, Kai and I, VJ, Brandy and John. And it's just, again, wanting to kind of keep a step ahead of everything. And, I knew that jiu-jitsu guys, like I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. I love jiu-jitsu. I love all the owners. I love all the practitioners, but we're super arrogant. We're super like macho, and we make a lot of stupid mistakes a lot of times.
Yep.
And I knew all of them would be like, you can't teach jiu-jitsu online. Like, we're not going to do that. And it's just a mindset thing. Like, you have to remember, like, and this was my thing back then, was like, yeah, if I'm a 2-stripe black belt or a brown belt, whatever, like, yeah, maybe I'm going to go find Samir's online course or, Andre Galval's course or Mendez Brothers, whoever. And I'll pay for that course. But like, mom and pop that are 10 miles around, 15 miles around our academy, don't know any of them. A lot of them maybe were even nervous to come into a facility before the pandemic, and that's why they never joined. So like, I was like, man, this is a great opportunity to be able to get in front of a ton of people that may have never even came into our facility. And so we just kind of dialed it in, and we got on the phones right away. Kai, myself, Nate, everybody got on the phones right away, like calling leads and calling people, trying to get them to convert and be able to sell over the phone. And we were able to come up with a good kind of call script and a script that we were able to sell, $299 6-week programs for jiu-jitsu online.
Yeah.
So worked really well. And then once we transitioned back, we just transitioned right back.
Yeah. So let's talk about different programs that you guys came up with, because there are a lot of academy owners that are, yeah, this is great, this all sounds good, but I need money right now, right? They need money right now. And tell me about some of the programs that are part of Academy Kings that you say, okay, what do you need? $7,000? Okay, I can show you how to get $7,000 in 7 days, or stuff like that. Talk to me about those programs and how they evolved. Is it something that came up like as like emergency funding type stuff?
So the 7K in 7 days was like an idea because we knew people were struggling with the pandemic. We knew people were struggling with their business, and they didn't have money to invest in a program. So, I have like a burn the boat kind of mentality in a way. And like, if you don't know what that is, it's like, Vikings back in the day, they'd land on the shores of England or whatever. And, they would go to war, and they would burn their ships, is the idea that there's no retreat, right? Like, yeah, we're going all in on this, and that's what we're doing, and we got to win. So it's kind of the same mentality. And the problem with, if you do make a little bit of money with your school, or if you got a little money on the side, is you never take the chance. You never like push the ball forward really. And so like burning the boats mentality is kind of like, you got to put a little bit of money and make it uncomfortable for yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you don't make it uncomfortable, you're not going to do the work. Like, yeah, I could sell the program for $100 or $1,000, but no one's going to do the work because they're not invested in it.
Yeah.
So it's got to be enough of a financial investment that people are like, I'm going to do the work. Like, I'm going to watch the videos. I'm going to do what they say. I'm going to do that. If it's not, the program wouldn't be as successful because people just wouldn't do the action. Right. So during that time was same thing. Like we knew that people had to make an investment, but they didn't have the money, and they needed to make money right away, because most of them, you know, we talk to 100 academies a month, and most of them don't have you know, at least 2 months worth of reserves in the bank.
Right.
So
Yeah.
and especially at that point, like people were just bleeding money. So you had to go ahead and have the idea of like, how do we get them money back right away? And the 7K in 7 days was just a way that right away, most of these people have a large list of people. So how do we go ahead and put out an offer to that list and get people to respond and get people to put up some money right away? And that's kind of the idea of that 7K in 7 days. And the idea was like, hey, we want people to invest in the business, but right away get a return on that.
Yep. Yep. And that, you know, that mentality really goes into pretty much anything that you do. Like when we're selling the 6-week program, yeah, you know, it's a pretty decent chunk of money that people are putting up, you know, and we hold them accountable, and we have their accountability coaches, and, you know, we make sure that they're losing the weight and they're, you know, checking in every week. But it's funny how, you know, if you were to give it away, no one would do the work. You're absolutely right. So it's got to hurt, right? There's got to be some kind of investment. And I've done sales training where, you know, back in my day job, where, you know, it's a, you know, $3,500 course that I paid for out of my own pocket. And that's just because I wanted to get better at sales. And believe me, I did every bit of the work because I did not have $3,500 to give. So I had to invest the money in that program so that I can make my money back in sales. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Tell me about, I want to talk about academies that are, because I'm a little bit different because I started.
Can we go back just on that point also about kind of the philosophy?
Yeah.
And I think it's a big distinction and a big difference of where our philosophy is versus like, say, other coaching groups or other kind of even affiliations and stuff like that have a coaching model built into it, or even an advertising model. You know, my thing is, so in my opinion, and this is my opinion, but most people kind of have it backwards, right? They do branding first, and then they try to make money on the backside. And typically that's where organic, word of mouth, you know, putting banners out or flyers out or whatever it might be. But the idea is not doing paid traffic because they don't have the money to do paid traffic. And then what they do is they try to do kind of low budget ideas that allow them to get branding. It's like, oh, well, you need to post on your social media page 3 times a day for the next, you know, 6 months. And by that time, you might get 3 people to come into your facility.
Yeah.
Like, and so like my mentality is like complete opposite. So I want to say like we go out super hard at the beginning, we do paid traffic, and then we have a system that we call the LPL system, which allows you to basically, right when people walk in the door, we're getting a bunch of leads. And then when we get them in the door, we charge them money and we collect that money. And now we can put more money back into advertising.
Yep.
So the idea of having that kind of backwards, and most coaching things that I've seen, most programs that I've seen don't have a way to get money fast. So the only thing that they can do is say, oh, you need to do organic, you need to do Facebook, you need to, you know, do more Instagram post or whatever. And that stuff works. It's amazing, but it takes you a year to get 7 people. So it's like, and so it's a complete kind of switch and mental switch really of what we do versus a lot of other people.
Yeah. Yeah. So we talked about marketing. We talked about sales. Let's talk about delivery. You always talk about over delivering, and you know, that's kind of hard to define because some people are like, oh, I'm doing jujitsu. They should like jujitsu. Right. But you know, I think one thing that, when I first started in jujitsu, is we kind of wore it as a badge of honor that people quit. Right. Like most people quit after they get their blue belt. Some people quit after their second day at white belt. But, you know, in the Academy King system, I've learned that is probably not a great approach as a business owner. I want to keep them all, right? I want to keep everybody that comes through the door, I mean, for as long as I can. So tell me about over-delivering and what that looks like to you once you get them in the door, once you get them on their 6-week program or whatever program you have them on. How do you keep them?
Well, so it really always does come down to kind of an over-delivery kind of idea. And to kind of simplify that, it's just like most of the time in a sale and you know, in an offer or whatever it might be, you're going to say, hey, I'm going to, you're going to get 3 classes a week. We're going to give you a uniform. We're going to give you a mentor to follow one of our jiu-jitsu black belts or brown belts or whatever it might be. And the idea is like, that's what you told them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you want to make sure you do that. Like, first off, most people don't even do what they tell them.
Yeah.
Right. So right away, they're kind of under delivering, which puts a bad taste in people's mouth. You want to do at least what you told them. And then if you can do a couple extra things, like, hey, if I say I'm going to call you 1 time a week, like if I call you twice, that's even better. Right. Mm-hmm. Or, hey, if I say I want to go around the room, we should kind of like make everybody leave with a smile. So if I go around the room and we want to at least have 1 touch point with every person in our academy every night. So literally like walking around, like tap them on the back, like, oh, good job, buddy. Like that's a touch point, right? But like a physical touch from the instructor to the student. If you say you want at least 1 of those a night, like if you do 2, even better.
Yeah.
So it's just literally doing that, right? It's like whatever you promised, you got to do that. And then do a little bit extra, throw them an extra t-shirt, throw them a thank you card, something that they're not thinking about or expecting. And it just elevates your service that much more.
Yeah. And, I can speak to that because like I said, I have the advantage. We have Deborah Academia as part of our team. And she is literally the ultimate team mom. I mean, we have a lot of students and she manages to the little things. Like we have a whiteboard. As soon as you come in, right behind the front desk, there's a whiteboard. And Deborah fills it with like, hey, we got this competition coming up. We have, today is whoever's birthdays. And then she'll write down, hey, these are all of the September birthdays. Every single person is on there and their birth date, like in order. And each one of those gets a birthday card. And, and she pushes us. She's like, hey, the birthday cards are on the desk. Make sure everybody signs them. So all the coaches sign the birthday cards, stuff like that. And I had a guy, mid-40s, something like that. He's not even a student. I think he visited one time. Deborah still sent him a birthday card. And he came back in and he's like, hey, my family doesn't send me birthday cards. But that's a good example of that over delivery, right?
Yeah. And those are the things like, and that's, you've done sales, like we've all done sales. Sales is always in the follow-up, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea of like, you have a list, man, reach out to them, send them birthday cards, send them a thank you. We do, especially with our students and stuff like that. If, some people lose a job, some people, have a baby, maybe lose a parent, get injured, like all of those things. We have a amazing staff member, Drew, and she kind of keeps the pulse of that, right? She kind of listens to all the conversations and checks the emails and all the Facebook stuff. And when somebody has a baby, we send them a little baby shirt. Like when they, somebody gets hurt, we send them like a little get well, either like a Amazon kind of picture thing that says like get well or a mug or something like that. If they have a death in the family, we send flowers or like, sorry, or we're thinking of you. But the idea is like doing those little things is super important because again, we're not only, we're here teaching martial arts, which is amazing, but we're building a family, we're building a culture. And like you said, that's the things that like no one else does. So just being different is going to get you that couple extra months of retention, have a better culture, have a better family environment, and really just have people that go to war for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And, another advantage that we have is there's 4 of us, right? There's Deborah, Chris, Amy, myself. So I handle, the Warrior Challenge stuff, and maybe we can talk a little bit more in depth on that, and the coaching staff. So any accountability coaches, any coaches on the mat, they're kind of my responsibility. We collectively make a decision, but they're my responsibility ultimately. Deborah is, HR and, follow up, and, she handles all the emails and all that other stuff. Chris is our tech guy. Chris handles all the tech stuff, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, all that stuff. Amy is more the facility envelope. If there's something that needs to get repaired, anything like that, she schedules all of that. So we have a good team set up. But when you have one person who is like, the head window washer, candle maker, everything, how can that person find ways to manage all of that? Is there ways to automate? Is there ways to, to not delegate, but maybe outsource that type of stuff?
Sure. Yeah. So I think first, the first kind of thing that you want to look to do is first you got to make some money, because as soon as you make a little bit of money, and I think that's where people struggle sometimes, is they're doing everything, so they're not making money.
Mm-hmm.
You need to constantly be investing in yourself and in your business. And, you know, when I see people that have a day job and they have the business on the side, you know, typically they're not making a ton of money with the business, but the business is typically making some money.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are not, those are the people in the perfect predicament or condition or situation to invest in their business, right? Like they should be investing in an ad agency or a coaching program or a cleaner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
you got a day job, but then you're going to the academy on Sunday and cleaning the academy. Those are the people. And I think it's always goes back to like a fear and a control kind of aspect. Most of the time people are afraid to let go of control. So, and again, through coaching and through leadership and different kind of aspects, you can learn that you need to let go, right? Like, hey, I'm really good at sales, but I have to let go of sales sometimes. And even if I'm closing everybody at 80%, if I hire a salesperson, maybe they only close 50%, maybe they only close 60%. But what it now allows me to do is do something else that I need to be spending my time with.
Yeah.
And so one, I think, is like they got to let go of control. And two, they've got to invest in themselves and grow themselves as a business person, as a person in general, to allow themselves to let go of that control. You know, you see it all the time with classes, even like, oh, well, no one can teach the way I do, but cool. Like you can only do so much.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, cleaning the academy, having a front desk person, all of these positions are important, and the owner of the school shouldn't be doing those.
Right.
Those are the things right away you should be, you know, figure if you pay a cleaner and pay a front desk person, if you have any kind of sales process, you sell 2 people a month, like they should pretty much cover that, depending on what that sales process looks like. So if you don't feel like having 5 hours or 4 hours a night back by having a front desk person and a couple hours a week, probably, you know, 3 to 5 hours a week doing the cleaning, if you can't produce enough money during that time, you've got way bigger problems than like needing those people, right? You need to learn how to do sales. You need to learn how to market. You need a lot more things going on in your business. And that's why you definitely need to have those people kind of taking over those spots.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think it's a fear, and I think it's a control problem. Like they feel like no one else is going to do it the way they do it, so they don't want to leave control of that.
Right. Yeah. And I noticed that like when we have our group meetings, it's literally like 30 alphas on the same call, right? Talking about the same stuff. And you know, we all trust you guys to be the leaders in that. And I think not everybody, but I think most people are open to the idea of like, yes, you have to relinquish control. The easiest one for me is like cleaning the academy. I can relinquish that pretty easily. The hardest thing for me would be marketing and sales. Like who is going to be the face of the company? Who's going to be that person that they see walking through the door and shakes their hand and brings them over? Who is going to be that walking billboard, right? How do you find good salespeople? Is it somebody that's internal? Is it somebody that's external? Because that's what I struggle with the most. Like, who is going to be? Because that ultimately, that's the last thing I'm going to give up. But ultimately, I'd like to give up the sales portion. So, how do you find that salesperson?
So again, you can groom them from within. You know, luckily we have Kai, who's actually a partner here, but that's his wheelhouse. That's what he does all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just our sales guy. He does all the sales, all of the promotion on the sales and stuff like that. But then we have, you know, our mentors and stuff like that are doing secondary sales and kind of upsells and things like that. But you're just grooming them from within. If we didn't have Kai and he wasn't as strong as sales as he was, then we would just either be looking for an outside salesperson. I mean, you have to look at, you know, when you start to compare things, right? Like martial arts and fitness is relatively the same thing, right? We're doing group classes. We're doing physical things on the mat. And you look at all the big Globo gyms, right?
Mm-hmm.
They all have outside salespeople that they're just bringing in, training them and coaching them, and they're selling. It's the same model. Like if you don't have one from someone within, then what we do is we just go ahead and you put out ads, you start, you know, go into every health club in the area, see who's the best one and say, hey, I'll pay you a little bit more money. Like You know, there's lots of strategies, lots of tactics that you can do to find that right person. But again, you got to know that they're not going to do as good as you.
Yeah.
But like you said, sales is kind of one of those things that you want to be. That's kind of the last thing that we're starting to let go of in your business as you're growing and as you're scaling.
Yeah. Yeah. And finding the right people under, you know, to do the I hate to call it peripheral stuff because it's all important, right? But like, you know, like you said, the cleaning, the coaching, the front desk. I think the front desk is one thing that gets neglected by most academy owners. When you walk into academy door, you know, you open the door and you kind of look around for somebody to make eye contact with, right? To see, you know, where you're supposed to go or who you're supposed to talk to. Once we implemented that, well, we did that from the beginning, but we were doing it ourselves. Like the owners were sitting at the front desk. Like we have a coach on the mat who was also an owner and an owner at the front desk, you know, when we first started, and everybody that walked in, you know, was a handshake. Hey, can I get you a bottle of water? You know, that type of stuff. But once we got that front desk person, that kind of, took some stuff took one thing off of our plate. But then, you know, after several Academy Kings calls, we're like, okay, well, the front desk person can also do the whiteboard entries. They can answer emails. They can handle phone calls. They can do a lot of things that we take for granted. Like we're glued to our phone and we don't really need to be, right? Because 90% of the phone calls we get are questions that can be answered by anybody, right?
Yep.
So, would you agree that that's probably the first thing you should implement is a front desk person?
Yep. And I think I would have to look back, but I can't remember if we may have relinquished our email first and it was like we actually, the same lady Drew that does, she was like one of our first hires, and I'm pretty sure we did do that actually, but Drew, we said, look, like, can you just take over all of our email and like respond to these people? And so that was kind of the first thing that we did. And she just did that remotely. You know, we paid her whatever it was, $200 a month to just, hey, every day go in there, respond to everybody that needs to. If you don't have an answer, forward it to us. We'll kind of come up with the answer and send it back to you. And through that process, you just build all of the responses and all the normal stuff that's happening. And you know, she handles all of our cancellations and all of our holds and all of that kind of stuff. So that was like the first thing that we did right away. I was like, dude, I hate this email thing. Like we're constantly getting emails. Like we let Drew do that. And then from there, we hired the front desk. And so, yeah, the front desk can do emails, can do appointments, appointment setting, scheduling, credit card delinquencies. At the end of the shift, they do a quick clean of the lobby and restrooms. You know, so you can kind of build that kind of overall job description into that hire when you make them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really allows you, and especially like for the academies that don't have that, like you're not only giving bad service to someone as they walk in the door, right? So like no one's there to greet them, like you said. They're kind of standing there looking around, not really sure what to do, feeling uncomfortable. So like they have a bad experience right when they walk in. And now what also happens is like your paying clients that you're teaching the classes for now lose their instructor for 10, 15 minutes as you leave the mat to go talk to this new client or prospective client. And so it's a bad experience for both sides of the equation. So, you know, and again, a front desk person, typically, you know, $15, $19 an hour at the most. And you just say, you know, what my recommendation is, hey, you got classes at 5 p.m. We got a person coming in at 4 p.m. She's going to see who's supposed to be there tonight. She's going to, you know, write the stuff on the board. Like we actually stole that idea from you. We didn't do that before. We write the welcome names on the board.
Yep.
But yeah, like they can kind of prep, do a quick clean, straighten up the chairs if needed. And then people start showing up at, you know, 4:45 or whatever. And now they're meeting and greeting, shaking hands, kissing babies and talking to the parents and all that. And then during the downtimes, they're checking the credit cards, they're checking the enrollments, they're doing all of the admin kind of stuff while they're there.
Yeah. 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 That position is so critical, especially like you said, when people first walk in and, you know, the instructor may walk off the mat and leave the students for a little while, or worse, not even greet the person that walked in. They just kind of nod their head and be like, okay, I'm out. And you never see them again. Once they leave, they're gone. Right. It's very rare that they come back. So I'd like to go back and talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. You talk about first, you got to make money, right? And you know, if you're, like you said, if you're on the mats, if you're doing all the admin stuff, you're not growing your business. So you might make some money, but it's not going to be anything you're going to be, you know, buying a new house on, right? That type of thing, right? So let's talk about making money. I want to talk specifically about what classes to implement, because there's always recommendations like, man, if you only had a 2 o'clock class, man, if you only had a 3 o'clock class. How do you quantify whether a class is worth keeping?
When somebody pays you for it. So like you know, again, like you were at that last summit that we did, the in-person one. And I kind of talked about this a little bit, to the point of like, you need to have focus in your business. You're going to have every person that's a member, every staff member, every family member, every neighbor is going to have a, man, you should do this. Yeah. You should have a noon class. You should have a karate class. You should do gymnastics. You should have Zumba. Like, everybody's going to have an opinion on what you should do as a business owner. And what you need to do is figure out what is the one thing that's going to move your business forward the fastest, right? There's typically one bottleneck at your business at one time. Most of the people at the beginning, it's leads, right? I need more leads. I need more leads. Once they get leads, they need more sales. So they have to figure out that process. But as far as specifically classes go, you have to invest in it, right? So meaning, if you were going to start a yoga program at your school, you got to make it a legit yoga program. You got to invest in it. You got to have it 5 days a week or 7 days a week. It's got to be a legit program. If not, you're going to get people that show up every once in a while. Some people aren't going to show up. So I would really never make a decision just based on the idea of like, someone said, oh, you should have this, or I would come to this. It's like, if they say that, then collect the money. Like, I will start it. I'm going to tell you what, we'll collect the money for that new class at this point, or whatever. Right. But you get the idea. Everybody's going to say that they're going to come, they're going to pay, they're going to do this or that. But in reality, most of the time it doesn't happen. Yeah. So, you know, I'm kind of under the idea of like, hey, start 2 days a week. If you're going to implement a noon class, do 2 days a week. Monday, Wednesday. And if you get it filled up, add a Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you get it filled up, add a Tuesday, Thursday. But what you don't want to do is start out and have all of these classes and have 2, 3, 4 people in each one of these classes, just because one person said, hey, I can't make the 6 p.m. class. Can you do a 5 p.m.? Mm-hmm. And then people start making these decisions based on that.
Yeah. And one thing that I noticed is anytime we implement a new class, like we have a class that's just not bringing in people, right? There was always our Tuesday, Thursday fundamentals program was okay, but it was never like, you know, everybody wants to train on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? So what do we do? Yeah. So we changed our curriculum. We didn't change the curriculum, but we changed the platform basically from gi to no gi, and all of a sudden the class is packed. Yeah. And then we had a Saturday class that just wasn't performing. So we got rid of that class and we brought in a wrestling class. I think anything that doesn't require washing a gi, people are into today, right? Like, are you noticing that trend going towards no gi more?
Yeah, I think and it's also just the hype of it, and the UFCs and the you know, ADCCs and all the main kind of stream stuff is no gi. Yeah. You know, that was a Krav Maga at one point. I don't know if it is now, but at one point was like the most searched term for martial arts. Oh, okay. And when you look at it, like part of their kind of thing was like, oh, you don't have to wear your pajamas here. Like, you know, it's like come street clothes, whatever, and get a workout. So, you know, when you, especially in the adult kind of side of things, and most jiu-jitsu schools, I think, are more in the adult side, like, you know, karate and stuff like that's more in the kids. I think obviously jiu-jitsu is growing with kids programs and things like that, but still, I think most of them start with an adult program first. Some adults just don't want to get in a gi. They don't want to get in a uniform. Yeah. And they've, you know, you got to persuade them into that.
Yeah. It's the younger guys too. Like, you know, the demo is like 18 to maybe 30. All those guys want to do a lot more no gi. I think they're just lazier, don't want to wash a gi, but I'm just more traditional. I like the pajamas. But yeah, no, I think it's a good trend, and it's a good pivot, so that you don't have to I didn't have to restructure anything really. I just made the same classes without a gi, and it seemed to work out. So that was good. So again, talking about making a little bit of money. Okay. So if you have an instructor that has, let's call it 5 classes per day, and they're teaching all of the classes, but they have an opportunity to do sales in the evening, but they got to get an evening instructor. For me, the biggest question mark was, what do you pay an instructor? You know, and at what level do you change? In your opinion, would you change the pay level based on belt level, or do you kind of just pay everybody the same? How does that work in your mind?
I mean, you kind of want to have everybody paid the same or relatively close.
Okay.
You know, and in reality, especially when you're looking at like fundamentals classes and kids classes, again, this is like blasphemy, I guess, but like, you don't need to be a black belt. Like, many very successful schools have blue and purple belts teaching kids in fundamental classes. You know, we're lucky. We have a ton of black belts, and we're able to, you know, give them opportunities when they want them. But we don't pay crazy amounts of money. Typically, you know, we're in the $20 to $30 range for classes. If you can do it by the hour, even better, because now you can maybe have them come for 2 hours instead of 2 classes, and you can get a little bit more things out of them. So, you know, I think that $20 to $30 range is pretty normal for instructors. You know, if people want more than that, it's like, cool, I just don't have an opportunity for you.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to do what's right for the business. And like I said, blue belts, purple belts, like I know a lot of blue and purple belts that are better instructors than a lot of high level black belts, because they just understand that like not everybody wants to be a competitor. Not everybody wants to be a UFC champion. Like some people are just coming in here to learn a little bit of jiu-jitsu, get in shape, have fun.
Yeah.
And they have that, you know, more charismatic kind of approach to the classes. So it's just kind of one of those things that like you can have a very successful program with other people teaching those classes.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, like, you know, along the same lines, I noticed that like, yeah, it really depends on the communication skills of the individual. Some people like, and some of the instructors that I've learned under, you know, there's been a language barrier, right? But some guys tough it out and they do the best they can, and others kind of like more, you know, show you the motions of the move rather than try to vocalize it, right? So I think that, you know, that being a decent communicator, or even if there is a language barrier, you're willing to learn, people are willing to learn with you, right? And I think that really promotes camaraderie in the class. But that's, in my opinion, number one, camaraderie in the class. I knew that we had something really special going on the first time I saw my students like hugging it out, you know, high-fiving, you know, hanging out after class, posting pictures of them going to restaurants together. That's when you kind of know you're building something really, really good. And, you know, getting to that point takes a little time, but you'd be surprised how little time it actually takes. You know, within 6 months, they're almost best friends, right?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, like, I've probably told you the story before, but our very first, so we've been doing our 6-week program for a very long time now, probably, you know, 8 years, 10 years, something like that at this point. Our very first group of 6-week program, right? We ran our ad, we got people come in, we got them into our 6-week fundamental program. It was a group of like probably 35 to like 55-year-old guys at the time. But that same group, like those same guys, one of them just won Master Worlds at brown belt, got second place in absolute, and won his division at brown belt. But they're still together. They're all brown belts together. They you know, hang out on the weekends. They go have beers. They text each other when they don't show up for class. But there's a group of probably 5 or 7 of them that started that very first group together and have moved up all the belt ranks together. And that's really cool to see. And that's, you know, when we look back on retention and when we look back on these things, that kind of having that fundamental kind of program and having that kind of group that all starts together, nobody knows anything. They're all kind of doing that thing together. It allows them to make that camaraderie, or allows them to make those relationships that will last a long time. And what it does for the school owner is now I don't need to be the one calling and texting those guys as much. We still do, but now they have their friend that's showing up for the class that they didn't show up for. And now they're calling them and kind of busting their, you know what?
Yeah.
Like, why weren't you here? What's going on? And like, oh, I'll be there next week. Sorry. And it allows us to have another layer of accountability to the program.
Yeah. And you talked about the 6-week program, and I'd like to talk about that a little bit, just to kind of explain to people that don't know. So in the 6-week program is you pay a lump sum for 6 weeks. And during that 6 weeks, we're basically we find out what your body fat, muscle mass, and total body weight is. Build a diet plan accordingly, to that specific those specific guidelines. You follow that program for 6 weeks. You also get 3 days of training per week, and there's an accountability coach assigned to you. We provide a gi for you, and at the end of the 6 weeks, we talk about next steps. Right, so you can either complete the program and walk away, or complete the program and continue and get a deposit on your first year's tuition. So you're basically getting six weeks of free training, right, before you actually start your first full year.
Yep.
And I think our dedication to that program has really shown itself in a lot of things. Basically, our students graduate from that program. I usually ask them to do it the full 13 weeks, right, instead of just 6 weeks,
Yep.
and fundies before they go into a mixed levels program. But when I graduate them from that program and they go on to our mixed levels or advanced classes, they're not lost. Because I remember going into my first week of training, and it's like, here's your loaner gi, here's your belt, there's the mat, I'll see you. And I'm like, my first jiu-jitsu class was a berimbolo class. I was 240 pounds trying to berimbolo around this belly, and I was just a pile of nothing, right? And so I didn't, that kind of stuff would discourage a lot of people. And I think that's why we lost a lot of people, within that first week, within that first 6 months. But our dedication to the fundamentals program, it basically gets you in shape while you're learning technique. And now once you graduate and go to that mixed levels class, you're in shape. You feel good about yourself. You made new friends, right? You're all kind of graduating together going into that program. And I think that's huge. That's huge. Was that the basis of the program when you first started it?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, it was the idea that I saw all of the progression of jiu-jitsu. It was getting popular, but like you said, people come in, and even to this day, a lot of people don't even have a sales process. Like, not only that's that problem, but like the people do leave. No one talks to them. No one asks them if they want to join.
Yeah.
And the people roll out and you never see them again. So it's like, first it was just like, okay, we need a process for this to like actually have a conversation with the people after the class.
Yep.
Like, yeah, we were at that point, we were still throwing them in the class, letting them get beat up and everything else. But, and it's kind of like whoever was tough and wanted to stick it out, like was tough and stayed and they became a member. But like at first it was like, we don't even have a sales process in general. So like, how do we have a conversation with them when they walk off the mat? It's like, okay, well, let's at least have the front desk person or one of us, when they're done the class, go sit with them and talk to them and ask them if they want to join. Like that was the first process. And then eventually that, again, you're testing it. You're saying like, okay, well, I'm getting some of the people, but not all the people. Like what can we do to go from 30% to 50%? And so then it was like, well, a lot of the people are just like, man, I'm out of shape. I can't do this or whatever. And you start having the conversations, listening to what they're saying. It's like, they just shouldn't be in that class. Like we need a class that's easier for them to do.
Yeah.
That allows them a little bit more slow technique and build. And then again, right, over delivering, thinking about experience, not only for the person coming in, but the person in the class. When you have a bunch of new people that are trying out your class, and it's an advanced class or an all levels class, now what happens? The guy that came in that's a blue belt, purple belt that wanted to get some good training in, now he's partnered up with the guy that can't even do a forward roll, and he's got to explain every part of the technique. And now it's a shitty experience. Sorry, bad experience again.
Shitty's okay.
Okay, it's a shitty experience for both guys again, right?
Yeah.
Like this guy doesn't want to teach him anything because he wants to have good training. He's missing hanging out with his buddy that he was training hard with. And so again, now the existing student is having a bad experience. The new person is having a bad experience. So like, that's really obvious to me. So it's like, oh, we got to change that.
Yeah.
So then, again, just the evolution starts to go, oh, we need a fundamental program or a basic program.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people find that out for themselves, man. Like I'll have people that say, you know, hey, I'm a professional. I'm in sales. I'm in whatever. I can only come to the 6 a.m. class, which is a mixed levels class. So, you know, they'll come in a few times and they get a little worked because, you know, there's guys in there that have been doing this a while. And then,
Yeah.
you know, one day they'll be like, well, I'm going to drop into one of those 6 p.m.s. Maybe I can make it. And they'll be like, it's like, it's kind of like the
Different
ape,
world.
yeah, ape discover fire kind of moment. Like, oh my gosh, I need to
Yeah.
do this. Right. And they kind of follow that path almost on their own. I try to guide them. You know, I always lead with the 6-week program, join the fundamentals
Yeah.
team, but some people are like, no, I'll just sign up for the regular program and do my thing. That is such a longer process to get comfortable, number one, to learn the technique. Forget about the technique, to learn the warm-ups. Like if you've got to get talked to the warm-ups, that's a really tough thing, especially for the instructor trying to move the class along. Let's. I want to go back and talk about the sales portion, if you don't mind. So one of my favorite sales books is Dave Sandler. You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar. That's one of my favorite ones. I read it almost every year when I was in starting in sales. And one thing that he talks about, he talks about the bonding and rapport, the pain, money, all that stuff going through the sales funnel or the sales the submarine. But one thing that gets neglected, and I think is the most important part, is the first 4 chapters of the book. It's understanding who you are as a person, right? Getting all that head junk out of your head, right? Being confident. Because one thing that you guys taught us is when you go to price yourself, price your product, you need to price it as though you're proud of that product. And there's too many people that'll say, hey, I'm going to be $100 a month. I'll get 1,000 people in the door and they'll never leave me and I'm going to be successful. Talk about that mindset and talk about what it takes to get to that level where you're like, yes, I have a good product and it should cost X.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things is, and everybody comes from different backgrounds and like you said, the headspace is super important because we all kind of grew up with different aspects of life and different money levels and different things. And if it was always like, we can't afford that, we can't afford this, we can't afford that, that's stuck in your head somewhere. So you got to empty all that kind of old stuff out and realize that like, maybe you as a person don't have a lot of money, or you as a person, your family didn't have a lot of money, or you see people that don't have a lot of money in your life a lot of times. So one of it's like the people that you hang out with. So luckily I get to hang out with a lot of like wealthy people. So I get to see what they do and the amount of money they have and the amount of money they spend on things. And, it all comes down to kind of percentages and the idea of like where you educate yourself and how you kind of get rid of some of this old baggage that you have. So first, it's obviously like, man, get around some better people typically and people that are building you up and not telling you like, oh, you can't do that. You can't do this. You can't do that. The power of can't is super strong, right? We go back to that a lot when we have the idea of like, man, even talking about how you change a program, right? We look at that as like, oh, I can't charge more for my program. I can't have a beginner's program because I don't have the time. I don't have an instructor. I can't do this because of that. That can't word needs to be tossed, right? Like it's always got to be, how can we do it, right? What do I need to do that? So first it's, again, getting rid of some of that baggage and allowing yourself to understand that there's abundance, right? There's abundance all around you. Like there's no finite money. Like there's tons of money out there. And just because you may have experienced, not having a lot of money or seeing people that didn't have a lot of money or whatever it was in your life, you got to know there's money out there and you got to know that there's plenty of money being spent. The pandemic is a perfect look at that, right? Like a lot of people were working from home, but a lot of people didn't have a job. So if you stopped marketing because you thought like, oh, everybody's at home and everybody's broke, like that was a bad choice because there's tons of people that were at home still getting paid their full salary, not spending any money. And now they got all this extra cash. So really kind of thinking through the process of like, I like to do an exercise, literally writing down, okay, I've done jujitsu since I was, 2000, I don't know, whatever it was, 2001. So okay, that's 20 years, say 22 years, 21 years. How much money have I spent on jujitsu in 21 years? Right?
Yeah.
Like I spent a shitload of money on
Yeah.
jujitsu in 21 years. I've
Yeah.
gone to tournaments. I paid for all that. I've gone to seminars. I paid for all that. You know, private lessons, like all of the stuff, travel. You write that number down. That's a big number.
Yeah.
Now you look at like, okay, I'm opening up a facility, or I have a facility open up. How much money did I spend on putting all this stuff into this facility? I write that number down. Oh, by the way, I just signed a 5-year lease on this building, and now my family is on the hook for, you know, 80 grand, 100 grand, whatever it is. Write that number down. You start to look at that number. That's a big number. And so you've invested a lot into this program. You've invested a lot into this knowledge, and like, not that we have to like get the return on the investment, which we should be thinking that way, you know, to a point, but like, hey, my knowledge is pretty, you know, I have a lot of knowledge, and I should be kind of compensated for that. That's why doctors get a lot of money. That's why lawyers get a lot of money, bankers, like all of these things, because they go to school, they put the time in, they put the money in, they get this degree, and now they say that they should be able to get a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so like, if you come at it from that idea, you do want to charge more for your product. You do want to charge more for your service. You want to be the most expensive in the area.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got off on some tangents, but
no, that's good. No, that's
answer the.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. You know, mostly like, you know, I have a lot of my friends are academy owners, a lot of them, and they're all here in Arizona, and you know, I've been competing against them since we were white belts, so we all kind of grew up together. But you know, some of them are like struggling with that piece, right? And like how much to charge, because they want to be available to everybody. They don't want to be exclusive, but they don't want to. They don't want to price. I feel like they're almost worried about not pricing themselves out of the market, but there's got to be like maybe like a little bit of imposter syndrome going on there, where they don't feel they're worth that much. And the way you broke it down, you write those things down. How much money have you spent on tournaments? Go out of state, see what that costs. It's about $1 grand. It's at least $1 grand, right?
Easy.
Yeah. And if you party like I did back when I started, it's more than that.
Yeah.
So, but you take all that into account. You take all the seminars, you take all the time you spent on the mat, all the broken bones, all the pulled groins and busted knees. We know what a surgery costs. It's not cheap, right? So I really like the way you broke that down. And I never went through that exercise of writing it down. I'm definitely going to do that. Listen, man, we've been going for more than an hour, and I know you got to jump on a call in like 6 minutes. So
I got a little bit of time. I think
okay.
They actually canceled on me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about other ventures, other business ventures that you in, because I want people to kind of hear it from, you know, a person who started an academy. You know, you started a masterminds group. Now you've got other investments going on. What other stuff do you have your money mixed in?
So I've got, you know, some real estate stuff. That's probably my largest kind of holding or investment, real estate. And then obviously some stock market stuff.
Yeah.
But mostly real estate. I have kind of a little side gig during the pandemic. My cousin owns like a slaughterhouse, a meat processing facility.
Mm-hmm.
And most of his product, it's a very large company. They do, you know, multiple millions, 150 million a year.
Wow.
So very, very big company. But during the pandemic, a lot of the, so they send basically kosher and prime meat to New York. So we're in Maryland. The majority of their business is kosher and prime meat that goes to New York, like Peter Luger and kind of the very high end restaurants and steakhouses in New York and Chicago. So during the pandemic, obviously everything went haywire.
Yeah.
And they like restaurants were shut down and all these things kind of went bonkers. So like I kind of hooked up with him and we kind of did some meat stuff together. And like, I know nothing about meat other than what he tells me.
It tastes good. That's all I know.
Like really quickly, I started to just be able to sell a bunch of meat for him.
Nice.
So we have like a little meat thing that we kind of do. You know, we use some of the internet marketing strategies, some of the kind of phone call sales stuff. And I kind of help him do some of that stuff as well. But like very quickly, I was able to basically not know anything about meat to selling like millions of dollar meat of like in like 2.5 months. So like,
That's cool, man.
just kind of like, you know, like I said, I can sell and I know how to kind of package these things together.
Yeah.
So we kind of have the meat thing that him and I do some stuff with, and then obviously the Academy Kings, and
Yep.
we're working on some software stuff for some martial arts schools. And then obviously the real estate is like I said, probably my biggest thing. I bought probably 7 or 10 houses in the last 6 months.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So constantly buying houses, and I'm like a buy and hold kind of strategy.
Yep.
So just buy them, clean them up, rent them out, and hold on to them.
Nice, man. Nice. And is that, do you do it in your local area, or is that something you kind of venture out of state?
Yeah, mostly that I do local.
Okay.
We're kind of focused pretty much on the local area on that. And I just find it a little easier. We do the property management ourselves. My dad's got some properties. I have some properties. My cousin and uncle, like, you know, we probably have over 150 houses between us.
Nice.
So there's quite a bit of real estate that we kind of deal with.
Beautiful. And you touched on something just a second ago about software, and I'm gonna switch us back to the Academy Kings portion.
Yep.
So when we first started Academy Kings, the tech it would have seemed insurmountable were it not for Jonathan and Brandy. I mean, it would have just been, oh my gosh. But on our initial call, we talked about kind of an overview of what we're getting into, right? And then we went into specific areas, and one specific area was the software, right? In the beginning, we were doing, gosh, let me see if I can remember them all. ClickFunnels, Facebook Business. We were doing, oh gosh, what was the
Acuity.
Acuity software.
Zapier.
Yep, all of that stuff. There were like
Sheets.
7 of them, 7 or 8. Yeah, Google Sheets. That's right. So, you know, learning all of that seemed insurmountable, and we got through it. And then you guys introduced Alan. We never took part in Alan. We stayed with the ClickFunnels piece. But then you guys took it a step farther, and now you have your own Academy Kings software. And that basically tracks, you know, all of our leads, all of our sales. It does a lot of different things, but one thing that is really handy is basically anytime somebody comments or sends us a message or anything on any of our social media pages, it goes to the King software. So one thing that we struggled with early on was we had several platforms: Facebook, Instagram, you know, whatever we were working with, and Messenger, you know, and we would get all these messages and we'd miss them. We'd be like, you know, 7 days behind. And this person like, hey, I really want to train, but I'm doing this. And then when you finally hit them up, they're like, oh no, I went to whomever right down the street from you. But what the Academy King software does is it consolidates everything into one system, and you can systematically go through. It's not email. It doesn't go through emails, but you go through all of your social media and you can respond to people in real time.
Yep, it does email too.
Oh, does it? I haven't done it yet.
Yeah. If you don't have your email in there, you can have all the email go through there as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really does consolidate a lot of that. And again, we talked to a lot of Academy owners. And one of the big time sucks for them is like constantly trying to find leads and follow up with leads. And like you said, what this does is basically just funnel Instagram, Facebook, Google My Business, any of these things, website leads, phone calls, text messages, all of it into one platform. So it allows us to obviously communicate real easily, but also kind of track where they are in our kind of funnel, right?
Yeah.
Do they have an appointment? Did they miss an appointment? Did they reschedule an appointment? Did they become a member? And it just allows that ease of tracking and ease of kind of knowing all of those leads are going into that one place. You know, the typical CRMs and things like that, they do try to do some kind of prospect kind of idea, but most of them suck. You know, we had at one point we had Zed Planner, but we couldn't send out email attachments, so that we had to have MailChimp, and then we had Scipio for text messaging.
Yeah.
And so they try, but they all kind of suck at it. They're good at like that management of the members, but as far as that prospect side, they're just not very good with it.
Yeah.
So what we try to do is come up with a system that works really well for the prospecting side. And then once they become a member, boom, throw them into your normal CRM that you're using.
Yeah. And like, you know, you said earlier about the guys that are spending, you know, posting on their social media 3 times a day to get, you know, 7 students in a month. They may lose 2 or 3 of those because they're not responding in time. Right. So this is an added layer for you to respond to people. Cause that's critical, man. When you hit somebody back up within 24 hours, they're like, okay, this is cool. You know, and we do our best. We're not 100% on that, but we do our best.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not only just external people that are looking to check you out. It's our internal folks as well. There's a lot of automation that you can do, right? So when somebody's going through our 6-week program, we actually automate some things that go to them via text. Like, hey, you know, today is clean out the refrigerator day, you know, make sure you send in your weights today. And, you know, that helps you kind of streamline that so that you're not chasing people down. You're kind of just responding to, you know, their replies to things you've already sent through automated messages. And that was another Scipio.
Yep. Scipio.
Yeah. That was another one we used. So, I mean, imagine trying to, you're basically you consolidated 6 platforms into one.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So where did that come from? Did you outsource that? Did you guys build it yourselves? How did that work?
No. So we white label that from another company. They kind of had the platform and then we customized it to our needs. And then obviously we put all of our campaigns and all of our kind of text, email stuff in there, all of our automations for reminders and scheduling and things like that. We just kind of customized that for our martial arts group. Okay.
Yeah. And, one more time, I really want to go to, pricing, because that's near and dear to my heart, because had it not been for you guys, we'd probably be priced way lower. And let's talk about the number one. I want to talk about the lifespan of a typical student, right? If you know those numbers. And number 2, what you should be typically making revenue per student per month. What do those look like?
So as far as pricing, we'll do the last one first there. So our number that we want to see you making is about $160 per student. We used to do $150, but after the pandemic and stuff, we said, okay, we want a little bit larger number on this so that we can pull a little bit more profit out and build up kind of those rainy day funds a little bit larger than what we were. So we used to be around 150. We like to see people. Now we say 160 is kind of that average student value. The number that we see mostly in the industry is about 100. So 100 to 109. So the average person, martial arts school owner that we're talking to, is making around $100 to $109 per month per student. Most of them are charging more than that, but then when they do discounts, they grandfather in the black belts, they grandfather in the founders special or whatever it may be, their price goes way down, and now they're at that kind of $100 price point. Price is super important because if when we talk about, again, over delivering, talking about sending out postcards, giving them a bottle of water, sending them a mug if they get hurt or whatever, you can't do any of that if you're not making profit and if you don't have a big enough profit margin. So typically what we see is people want to have a low price, but then they can't do any of the things that they need to do to have a successful program. They can't give away a t-shirt. They can't give away, a workbook or whatever. And then they try to like nickel and dime them. And even on that, they're not making any money. They're like, oh, the shirt cost me $5. I got to sell it to you for $5 or whatever. Right. And it just, there's no need for it. If you're charging enough money for the product kind of day one.
I gotcha. Yeah.
It just allowed, that's why people can't pay for the cleaner or pay for the front desk person or hire the instructor, because they're not making any money. From the numbers we see, we have about 100 and a little over 150 academies in the Academy Kings right now. So we see a lot of data, and the numbers that we see before they get in, the average profit per year is about $10,000 to $12,000 of profit. And that's literally pretty much them putting that money in their pocket, as far as that's their money. They didn't collect any money or take a paycheck. like they take that $100,000 out a year or
Yeah.
a month, and that's their profit. You know, just by kind of making that switch to weekly pricing and things like that, a couple of things that we do, typically we can double that profit day one, as people kind of come into the program. But
Yep.
pricing is one of those things. You just got to get by it. You're not going to see a difference at $99 and $199.
Yep.
The same amount of people are going to say yes, and the same amount of people are going to say no. I promise. I've done 1,000 different surveys and different tests on this, and the price points are the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when you're talking about over delivery and you're talking about adding value, right? Adding value, you should also be talking about increasing price at any point, because if you're adding value, that means you're spending money, in my opinion, right? I mean, it's very rare that you can add value without spending money, right? And I think,
well, not true, but go ahead.
well, I mean, most of the time it costs me money.
Adding so digital, right? Like it may cost you one thing, but if you send them a digital PDF of a program, that's added value, but you made it, cost you a little bit of time or energy or money maybe to initially make that.
Yeah.
But as you scale that out, and when you send your 100th PDF out, like it really doesn't cost you anything.
That's a good point.
So you can build value through videos, right? So we have the video that you can kind of put as part of your program, give them video access to all of the techniques. Again, like we already have it done. So if you're part of our program, like you get it.
Yeah.
But if you want to make it yourself, you got to put a little bit of money into it or a little bit of time. But once it scales, like it's free.
Yeah.
Like you're just giving out value for free.
Yeah.
And so even with the text messages and the automations, like sending that text message to say, Alex, how's it going today? Did you have a good day? Like we missed you or whatever. Like that adds value to that person's life, to that person's thing, but it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I was talking from the standpoint of like adding coaches. Like in our kids program, we have a head coach and we have 3 assistant coaches. We try to have 4 people on the mat at all times. And when people are like, "Oh, you charge the same for adults as you do kids," that's very rare. It actually costs me more to run a kids class than it does an adult class, because an adult class, we're all adults. I mean, everybody's pretty much. I shouldn't say everybody's paying attention, but everybody looks like they're paying attention for the most part. They're not picking their nose or punching anybody like the kids program. So we try to keep as many coaches on the mat as possible. So that costs money, right? That in my opinion, that's over delivering. I've seen kids programs where whomever shows up right around kids class is probably going to be teaching that class. Like they'll say, "Hey, you're here. You want to teach the kids today?" Yeah, sure. Yeah. So there's no structured program. There's no structured curriculum, and we try to be as structured as possible. So yeah, I think that's something that is added value in my opinion.
Well, and when it comes to pricing, and when it comes to sales, and when it comes to all these things, the biggest thing, and again, that little exercise, writing that stuff down, will kind of open your eyes to the amount of money you spent.
Yeah.
But also, you, again, like you said, you need to have belief in yourself, belief in your program. You need conviction.
Yep.
When you sell, right? You need conviction in yourself. You need conviction in your program, and you need conviction in the price point that you're selling. Like if you have that conviction, now you have confidence behind, it's not like I'm just, we're $200 a month or $250 and I'm sliding the thing across, like looking the other way. It's like, no, dude, like, yeah, we are the most expensive in the area. You can go anywhere and try that. If you're not looking for quality and you really don't care about the environment that you're training in, there's like 5 other academies really close that you could go. But if you care about cleanliness and culture and things like that, we're going to be more expensive than everybody else. Like, if you have confidence in yourself and in your program, it allows you a lot of that conviction, right? You just really need to believe in your own value. And the idea of what you're giving them is genuine, and that you have the ability to fix their issue.
Yeah. And I don't want to say it came easy to me, because I had a lot of head trash for a lot of years. But if I were to write down everything I spent on jiu-jitsu, like all the classes I took, all the private lessons, all the travel, all the tournaments and all that stuff, it was really underpriced. It really was, because it literally changed the direction of my life. It literally changed everything in my life. So when I look at somebody across from me who's like 50 pounds overweight, I'm looking at them like, yeah, we're going to do this, man. We're like, this is a no-brainer. Like your life is going to change. Like if you make a decision today, your life is going to change. And I can say that with all the conviction in the world because I did it. Yeah. Right. So it makes a huge difference. Go ahead.
And I think kind of talking to that again, that baggage and that mindset, the first sale, like as a business owner, as a salesperson, as the very first sale is you got to look in the mirror and you got to tell yourself you're worth it.
Yep.
Like if you can make that first sale to yourself, everything else is easy. Like it's going to happen. Right. But you literally have to convince yourself, and that sale needs to be to you, that you're worth the effort, you're worth the money, you're worth the experience. And you're there to help people. If you can convince yourself of those things, everything else is easy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, man, we've been going a little while. I just want to make sure I'm respectful of your time. How can people get a hold of you, and what's the best way for Academy owners to reach out and be part of Academy Kings?
So academykings.com, I think. Let me check. I think that works.
Everybody forgets.
Let's see here. Nope, that doesn't work.
Is it MMA Studio Secrets still, or what is it?
No, I just misspelled. I missed an A.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So, academykings.com. There's, you can learn there. We've got some case studies. We got some programs that are free. We have a completely free martial art course for school owners. It's kind of A to Z. It talks about pricing, talks about mindset, talks about how to use ads and how to run ads efficiently. So really great free course that we have for any martial arts school owner. Really any business owner in general could probably also use that. Like you said, it's all the same kind of info. Business is business. We just specialize in martial arts. The other thing that I would say is, depending on when this is going out, we have the event in Houston, November 3rd to the 6th. So if this does go out before that, and we still have tickets, love to have some people come to that event. Mostly it's academykings.com, and you can check us out at online as well.
Yeah. So yeah, it will be out before then. We're probably going to post this in maybe in the next couple of weeks. And if you want access to it, I'll get you that as well. So you can post
that'd be great.
Yeah. And another thing that I want to point out is you do a lot of stuff on Facebook that's free to Academy owners. Or to anybody. So, and there's a lot of good information. You're constantly putting out really good information out there. So I encourage you guys to go out to Facebook and find some of the Facebook pages that are part of Academy Kings.
Yeah. If you're a jiu-jitsu guy, we have BJJ Business and Martial Arts Marketing. That's our Facebook group. If you're a martial artist, go ahead, or martial arts academy owner. You have to be an academy owner to get in there, but go ahead. Click that BJJ Business and Martial Arts Marketing. Go grab that one and just quick survey. It's going to ask you if you're an Academy owner or not. Answer yes, and then we'll let you into the group. Lots of free content in there. Lots of interviews like this. Ton of content. So yeah, there's a lot in there.
Nice. So before I let you go, everybody's got to go through this. It's my lightning round of questions. There are no wrong answers. No wrong answers here. All right.
I'll try.
All right. Here we go.
My best.
Name a game show you think you can actually win.
Wheel of Fortune, maybe.
Okay. What's your favorite cheat meal?
Ice cream.
All right. What's the longest you've gone without brushing your teeth?
Maybe a day.
Oh,
not
really?
Very long.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Don't you camp? Come on. Now.
When I was a kid, maybe, I don't know, but I don't remember. But I brush my teeth all the time.
Right on. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Bon Jovi. Is it Bon Jovi?
Which one?
It's the motorcycle one. Iron Horse thing.
I don't know, man.
I think it's Bon Jovi. I can't remember what the name of the song is though.
I'm sure somebody will comment. What's a dumb song you secretly like?
Oh, what is it? They're like this European group. Oh my gosh. Well, I'll go with they're from Sweden. I actually met them when I was in Sweden one time.
Oh yeah.
They're like this girl group. I'm a Barbie girl thing. I can't think. Aqua.
Oh,
Aqua.
gotcha. Aqua, gotcha. Nice. All right. So, do you prefer to sleep in or nap?
Do I what?
Do you prefer to sleep in or nap?
I nap, I guess.
Nap. Okay. PlayStation or Xbox?
I've never played.
DC or Marvel?
I don't watch it.
Travel into the future or back in time?
Probably future.
All right. What's your favorite childhood TV show?
Childhood TV, maybe Thundercats.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a new one. Yeah. What somebody said the A-Team the other day. I was like, hell yeah, the A-Team. Yeah. Well, listen, man. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time, man. Like you have changed the course of my life. It's been a pleasure working with you. And I'm sorry I'm going to miss the event in November, but I encourage everybody who is an academy owner, business owner, sign up for that event. Show up. You'll learn a lot. You'll get to meet 30 or 40 other academy owners that'll help you along the way as well. So Lance, thank you so much, man.
All right. I appreciate it. And like, I just want to say thank you to you as well. You guys are great, hard workers and action takers. Like we were talking earlier. Super proud of what you guys have done.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Take care.
See ya.